Pop Smoke is a rapper I haven't been very familiar with for very long, and I'm not gonna pretend like I was a huge fan of the original mixtapes or anything. He kind of he wasn't really in the game until last year, and overall he didn't really get his chance to take off and become mainstream. He had two mildly successful mixtapes. First one being Meet the Woo, which I quite enjoy, and the second one being Meet the Woo 2, which I also quite enjoy. Both albums being Meet the Woo 2, which actually counts as a 2020 album, by the way. Both albums being very aggressive, not really thematically mixed up, but having very much a instinctive, a very loud voice. He has a very raspy smoke voice, if you know what I mean. And both albums really did bring something to me that I was impressed by them. I didn't love them. They're both kind of B, 6 out of 10 quality, but they're enjoyable. And they're actually probably better than things like Dark Lane demo tapes. I don't know if I think Meet the Woo 2 is a pretty good album. But it is honestly pretty sad, and it is really depressing that he kind of lost his life. He lost his life before he ever really got the chance to make a name. He definitely had two mildly good, successful projects, but he never really got that chance to, here's a debut album and blow up and be big. I never would think that Pop would be one of the biggest in the world, but you'd think he'd be able to take off more from the point he was at. So with this album, I went into it with hopeful expectations. Definitely, I want to hear a good Pop album. Definitely, I want this to be a great debut album, but I also have this worry that it's a posthumous album, which aren't always good. They don't always respect the artist. A lot of the time, if you're like Tupac, you basically get butchered, and they basically just take a bunch of your just songs and just make an album out of it, kind of. They don't really respect the name. They don't really give it the best production they can. And overall, Pop Smoke actually, like, I have this worry but like that, but I also feel like people have and studios have kind of realized the importance of a posthumous record, and they've realized that you should never capitalize off the death of an artist, which is kind of the taste with people like Biggie, Tupac, Michael Jackson, artists like that whom have these posthumous records released that are not even like half as good as the projects released during their lifetime. That's usually because their voice isn't in on the project. But earlier this year, I think with what happened with X, kind of has inspired studios to try harder with posthumous records. People like I don't think there's really, I haven't really listened to X much enough to really say it, but I know very well that the first posthumous X record was hated, and it was pretty terrible from my knowledge. And I think that studios may have taken something from that, and they think they've maybe taken, hey, maybe we should respect these. Mostly, maybe I just think that because Circles was such an amazing record that was able to bring that sound Mac Miller was just generally about, and was able to compile it into an album that I feel like would come out in Mac's lifetime. That's what I was really hoping to hear with this posthumous record. I wanted this to sound like what the debut Pop album would sounded like. I wanted this to sound like if Pop had actually gone to the point of making an album, is this what it would sound like? And generally speaking, judging by these features, I thought probably we have people like Quavo, Lil Baby, Future, DaBaby, Sway Lee, 50 Cent, Roddy Ricch. There's a lot of really big features on this project. So I generally went in hopeful and hoping to really enjoy this. And after the first two tracks, I kind of was set in this thing of, okay, maybe first like 3 or 4 tracks, I thought, okay, maybe this won't be much better than the mixtapes. Maybe they'll just be kind of an album version of the mixtapes. Mostly in this beginning kind of 4 tracks. You first start with the very short 48-second track, Bad Bitch from Tokyo, which I'm not going to include as a track from the album. And that's mostly because there's not really anything to it. It's just like a couple bars and then it ends. But then he follows it up with the track Aim for the Moon, with Quavo, which is a nice track, has a nice Quavo verse, but I didn't really take much from it. I kind of just took a higher produced Pop Smoke track, not much to it. Then he follows it up with the track For the Night, which is going to be one of the big popular songs of this. Probably releases a single soon, with Lil Baby and DaBaby. And I think both of these guys delivered fine enough features. I don't really love either of them. I think Lil Baby has kind of played himself up a lot more than he should have. because he's kind of just another trap rapper, but he's kind of built himself up to a height that he doesn't really deserve. He's not really much better than these rappers. And if you guys watched my recent video, you know I did never have cared for DaBaby, and I didn't care for any of his projects thus far. So, but both of them deliver fine enough features. Pop is definitely the standout because he's just delivered better things than either of the other two. But it's a nice track. It has a very hard beat, has a nice kind of repetition to it. Then that's followed up with the track 44 Bulldog, which I didn't really take much from. I don't love it. I don't hate it. I feel like this didn't really need to, how do I say it beyond just, this didn't really need to be here. It just didn't really give me anything. It just kind of was another Pop Smoke song. And it just kind of left me with this, okay, are we going to get better? And the album definitely does get better. From pretty much the track Gangstas and from then on, this is one of my favorite on this album, honestly. I love this track. I love this Dre hard piano beat with a very aggressive flow from Pop Smoke. It gives me a nostalgia of tracks like Big Egos and Still Dre that have that nice piano beat. And I wish more rappers would use that because it sounds so nice. I love piano beats so much, and I wish more rappers did it. But this is a song that uses it very well, very high-produced, very kind of raw. Then we're given the track Yeah Yeah, which I really enjoy it. I think it has a very nice sound coming off this album. It's not one of the best off the project, but it's definitely enjoyable, and it's definitely a track you could listen to often enough. Then we're given the track Creature. I almost called it Feature because I was saying featuring Sway Lee. I love Sway Lee. I just do. I don't think... I don't even remember if he's released a solo project. I like Sunflower, and I like Ray Sherman overall. So I was hoping that he'd have a nice feature. He has a nice hook. He has a nice aggression to the energy of the track. Then we're given the track Snitching, which is one of the hardest and most energetic tracks on the entire record. Quavo gives a really nice hook that I do feel goes on for too long. But then again, I do have to feel like maybe they just didn't have enough pop verses to fill it up. But Future has a great verse on this. His voice really works with the beat. Then we're given the track Make It Rain, which was priorly released as a single. I quite enjoy it. I don't love it, but I definitely think it has a hard sound to it. Has a very, basically the sound that this album is trying to come across. A more higher produced, maybe a little more depth to a general Pop Smoke mixtape. Then the track on The Woo comes on, which is my most anticipated track on the album, simply for the 50 Cent verse, because I just love 50 overall. He's just a rapper that you've heard at least one of his albums. You've heard Get Rich or Die Trying. If you've only heard one album, you've heard that. I highly doubt somebody's like, oh, I've only heard Animal Ambitions, but nothing else. No, you've heard Get Rich or Die Trying. And he gives a very nice, aggressive verse. Better than his Remember the Name verse from last year, which is good. And I really love Roddy's verse on this, too. Roddy is just a great guy overall. He's proven himself very, very talented. Then we have the track on West Coast Shit, which I really like. I know Tyga, I know he's not the best. And I know he has some pretty terrible albums under his belt. But I have to admit, I really like his verse on this. And while I don't really think Quavo needs to be on this, I get that he's a great rapper to have as a feature because he never does anything grand, he never does anything big. He just has a nice voice and he just does good features. Tyga has a great feature on this, and I know a lot of people have complimented Tyga's feature game, but we should take more account into that instead of focusing on his albums because those aren't good, but his feature game really nice. Then we have the track Enjoy Yourself, which has which this one and The Woo have this sound. I kind of wish I talked more about this with The Woo. They have a very Latin romantic sound to it, which I love. I actually think pop works really well over these. And Karol G has a really nice verse over it too. This is actually one of my favorites on this album. This Latin romantic beat really works overall with it. Mood Swings is a track I didn't really need. I don't really feel like I took much from this track. I like the Lil TJ feature. He's nothing big, but he's enjoyable on a track with Pop Smoke, but it didn't really need to be here. The track Something Special is one of the lower on this list for me. It might be my worst, and that's mostly just because I just kind of found myself dozing off during it. I get it's kind of his romantic song, but I don't really feel like Pop can really deliver those very well. I like his track PTSD on the mixtapes, where he can get a little emotional and a little more real, but with this, What You Know About Love and Diana, I don't really feel like his romantic game is very high, and I don't feel like these three tracks should have been back-to-back. I feel like these should have been separated out across the album. However, then we're given a fantastic closing to the album. First, you're given Got It On Me, which is kind of Pop's own rendition of Many Men, which is a great hip-hop track, one of the best of all time. And 50s already has a heavy hand in this, so it's actually really kind of amazing that this is the final track. It's one of the best on this album with this grand, really choir over it. It's really nice, and I think Pop does great over it. And I would like that to be the conclusion. Tunnel Vision does end up being this conclusion with a very nice sample at the end of him in an interview. Then we are given Doyer, which is on the other two mixtapes, so I'm not counting that as one. It would be it's a pretty great track. It might be his best on those mixtapes at least. But overall, how do I kind of feel about this project overall? I think this is a great posthumous record. I don't think that this is grand. I don't think it's one of the best albums like ever. It's not, but it's definitely good for a posthumous record. Maybe there is something with there being a posthumous record when that artist didn't really get the chance to blow up. Maybe when there's somebody like Tupac or X and they've already had like multiple huge albums, then once you get to the posthumous thing, the studio really just doesn't care and they just want to make money. But maybe with the out label has realized Pop Smoke isn't huge. This isn't going to be a major hit, but we're just going to try and give it a good send-off. We'll give it to 50 Cent, who has some huge respect for Pop Smoke. Pop Smoke was very inspired by 50. So I feel like that is kind of what the general consensus of these producers was. And it really does come together well. And the only reason why I don't love this, honestly, actually, the only reason, I really don't love this album is because of those just kind of romantic tracks in the middle, like towards the end, just those really didn't need to be there. There are some tracks on some that definitely don't need to be here, and it didn't need to be 16 tracks. But overall, it's actually a great project. It has a great sound to it. It sounds what I think a Pop Smoke album would sound like. All the features give it their all. They give it their best. While I don't love this to my grave, tracks like The Woo, Gangstas, and Enjoy Yourself, and also Got It On Me are all just tracks I really enjoy listening to. I can see myself going back, listening to this record a couple more times. I might feel a little different after hearing it more, but overall, first impression after listening to it and after reading about it more, reading some more backstory, I quite enjoy this, honestly. For Pop Smoke's Shoot for the moon, aim for the stars, I'm feeling a B+. I actually think this is better than the other two B+ this year, Music to Be Murdered By, and Please Excuse Me for Being Antisocial. This is a great record, and I'd see myself listening to it again. I'm not giving this the A-, because I feel like if you're A-, you kind of have to have a very consistent tracks. And while this does have a kind of consistent tracks, it has too many weak tracks for me to give it A-, but B+, high B+, heck yeah, really enjoy this. I know we're not going to get any more Pop Smoke like posthumous records. I don't really want to see people taking features for him. I think this is a nice send-off. And I think this does show that if Pop Smoke had gotten the chance to make it, we would have heard a fantastic studio album from him. And we did, really, we did. What do you guys think on Shoot for the Moon, Aim for the Stars? Let me know in the comment section below. Let me know what I'm going to review next. I think at the end of every month, I'm going to do a thing where I go over all the 2020 albums that I've heard that I didn't get the chance to review. Albums that have come up prior in the year. They're not going to be as high edited videos, but at the end of July, I'll make one of those. Because there are albums that I'm planning to listen to this month that I didn't get to talk about in my last video that have come out months ago. So reviewing them doesn't really make sense. Hopefully every week I get a hip-hop review. It depends on what's actually coming out every week. But yeah, I don't know what I'll be making next. Something good, though. I'm excited to hear what we make next. Maybe on Tuesday, some big artist will release something. Or maybe J. Cole or Kanye will just surprise release something out of nowhere. Who knows? It's hip-hop. It's really diverse in everything. I actually have decided for these reviews, I'm going to post a ranking for all the songs in the comments or in the description. Because I think that's fair. And I think it gives you guys a general consensus of what my favorite tracks on the album are. And just kind of gives you how I feel about this. See you guys next time. Bye.